It's June 23rd. Welcome to the Cybersecurity Whisperer. This week, we're going to dive in and talk about 9 ways that CISOs lose their job. Security leaders work very hard to protect their enterprises and their careers, yet all that hard work can disappear in just an instant. All that's necessary is really a little inattention, a false assumption, or perhaps following some misguided advice. So I'm going to run through these really quick because 9 is a lot, and we've got other articles to cover too, but these are important. So the first one being overconfidence. Certainly overconfidence can lead to complacency, and when individuals or organizations assume their current security processes are sufficient, they fail to remain vigilant and can become vulnerable to new threats. As a result, security gaps go unnoticed and your defenses become outdated. Next is promoting runaway complexity. Careers often derail when the security leader loses focus on essential tasks and becomes distracted by the latest tech and hot topics, AI and the all the blinky lights and the greatest, coolest tools. Well, the result is just that. It's the acquisition of lots of different tools, adding unnecessary complexity and needless distraction. Next is shortchanging governance risk compliance. Deploying a cybersecurity stack without including a formal GRC program can easily end your career. Next is failing to align with cybersecurity with enterprise objectives. We've talked about this many times. One of the biggest mistakes security leaders make aren't technical errors or even failing to envision potential threats, but instead, it's the failure to understand and frame your cybersecurity program within the organizational context. And that certainly could be a potential career killer. Next is underemphasizing access controls. We've talked about this as well, that many security leaders spend their time worrying about backdoors and other threats without thinking about identity. Identity, we've said for a long time, is the new perimeter, and they are front doors into our systems, and overlooking unsecured and misconfigured identities can end your career. Next is somewhat similar, but it's ignoring the human factor. We've talked about this as well. The biggest, that's sometimes the biggest mistake that leaders make is focusing entirely on technical solutions and processes. And when, the biggest vulnerabilities usually come from the people side. Security experts who underestimate these type of relationships will ultimately fail. Next is, we talk about data retention, allowing abandoned data to linger. If you've got stale data in cloud-based, storage that's forgotten about, hidden, that can come back without a warning to wreck your career. Leaving the stale data certainly does pose significant dangers, ranging from security vulnerabilities to compliance issues. And so it's a really important mistake, but it is preventable. Next is not building a bridge to your business, similar to the goals and objectives. But this is, overall, if you've got ineffective communication with your non-technical stakeholders, this can certainly lead to misunderstandings and confusion. And this will sow distrust and lack of support for your security initiatives and growing challenges when you're going and trying to seek security budget approvals. And so that's super important that you build those relationships outside of IT before you go ask for the money. Next is complacency, and this is the last of the 9. And this, again, it's a huge mistake that you just think everything is under control. And if you're a security leader like that and you place your faith in your security projects and your schedules, well, some even will trust their industry certifications to protect their business from the bad guys. And as we've heard over and over again, the last words after your enterprise had suffered an historic leak of payment data, for example, is, hey, we were PCI DSS certified. And that doesn't matter. Compliance does not equal security. So don't be complacent. Kind of related to that, we want to talk about the next thing is it's coming up on mid-year reviews for many companies. So hopefully you're not just doing your performance reviews in December or in January or February before the bonus season or the merit increase season. And if you have dreaded writing these reviews because you don't remember what you've accomplished or been surprised by the results of a review, if maybe you thought you were going to get a promotion and you didn't. And this is, the performance review process overall at many companies is frustrating and can leave you feeling, maybe undervalued and confused. But there are steps that you and your manager can take to help avoid these. And there is a common misconception, especially maybe if you're earlier in your career, that the manager is just going to plan your career out for you. While your supervisor certainly should play an active role in helping guide you and mentor you, it's really, you've got to be responsible for your own career development. And so learning to do these kind of things independently is going to help insulate you from what will be, you will have bad managers, you will have changes in managers and reorgs. But if you can work through this, it will help you accelerate your growth, regardless of how often that happens. And so simply create, nowadays, a shared document that you have out on your own personal, shared drive, Google Drive or something. And maybe it's a spreadsheet that just has a few columns like month and project and your impact or notes about that. If you track that, maybe update it monthly, look back at your calendar and see what kind of things you did in the past month, and maybe rank it by project or by business as usual BAU type activity. That's going to help you a lot. But also contributing to blogs, LinkedIn posts, signing up to try to speak at conferences regardless of your career level, maybe participating in Tech Tuesdays if you have them around your area. That's all going to really help with these overall reviews. Let's chat a little bit about an update on the Snowflake breach. The details have started to emerge about how the hackers stole at least the Ticketmaster data from Snowflake. A group called Shiny Hunters did speak with, at least via chat, with some folks at Wired Magazine, and sure enough, this is again a case of a third party. And so there was a third party company called EPAM Systems, which is a publicly traded software engineering and digital services firm that has over, at least according to their website, has over 300 resources at their company just focused on Snowflake. In other words, they offered their services to companies that need to help implement, deploy, and manage Snowflake, so they would have access to your Snowflake environments if you had contracted them. Of course, they're denying it. EPAM has said that they don't believe that they've played a role in any of these breaches, saying that the hacker just kind of made this stuff up. But they have been around since 2020, and Shiny Hunters has been around since 2020. Has been responsible for numerous breaches, and so they kind of are good at this. And so more to come on that, but if that's the case, then they would have been able to access these systems. And they said that Shiny Hunters said they found the information they needed on a single employee's computer, a single EPAM employee's computer, that allowed them to get into these accounts. It's huge. Again, they've talked about getting the Santander Bank, 30 million customers, 6 million account numbers, 28 million credit card numbers. We got notices this morning from Advanced Auto Parts, Lending Tree. There's a lot of victims from this, and I think a lot of fallout still to happen. Now, CDK Global, a company that probably none of us had heard of, got hacked this week, ransomed, and over 15,000 car dealerships use CDK for their entire operation. So whether that's you need to come in to your local car dealership, Ford, GM, Chevy, to schedule a service appointment, or you need to actually buy a car and they go through the application process, the credit application, the financing, the extended warranty and all that, that all goes through the CDK Software's global platform, their SaaS platform. And they were completely shut down. And they tried to bring their systems up quickly, like within a few days, and they got re-breached again. The systems continued to get ransomed, and so they originally said that they would have all systems back up by Friday, the 21st, and now they've taken that note down and said they don't have any ETA, and so these dealerships are have to go back to paper applications, paper invoicing, and such, and it'll be very interesting to see when they're able to recover. Finally, the last story that I've got for you, I followed this out on Twitter, and I followed the CISO from this Kraken crypto exchange, Nick Perko, and it's interesting. He revealed that a security researcher reported an extremely critical bug to their, they've got a bug bounty program, they've had it forever. They reported that back on June 9th, and the researcher didn't disclose technical details. They only explained that the flaw allowed anyone to arbitrarily increase the balances in a wallet. And so he's like, look, we get these fake bug bounty reports every day. This isn't anything new, but we treat each one of them seriously. They quickly assembled a team. They did discover an isolated bug that allowed an attacker under specific circumstances to initiate a deposit onto the platform and receive funds into their account without completing the actual deposit. And so they figured out, they pointed out that the client's assets are not at risk. However, an attacker could use this to put assets in their account. And so they addressed the vulnerability within like 45 minutes. He said, I think 48 minutes they had it fixed. And they did go back and do a search for it, and they found that 3 accounts had exploited the vulnerability within a few days. And one of the accounts was the actual security researcher who had just moved like $4 to prove that it worked. The others had used it to withdraw $3 million in stolen funds from their Kraken accounts. And at the time of the writing, they had refused to give it back. However, he went public on Twitter with it, and within a few hours, they did move the money back, minus just some transfer fees. So good news there. But he just reemphasizes that what they had initially done was not white hat hacking; it was extortion. And they notified law enforcement, and again, magically, it did get moved back. So good news there. All right, that's all for this week. See you again soon. Thanks.